He's going to be Rochelle White to take it today. He's going to be Rochelle White. He's going to be Rochelle White. Yep, that's it. Just slightly ahead of Eric Osadolo. And then Adelike Adeniyi. You people are really rivalry, huh? Omonike, you are back from job today on time, I guess. Paul Uriade, welcome, welcome. Pastor Natasha, here you are. Nice to see you. Welcome. How is this house surviving without Pastor Natasha? That's the power of system. Only system could have done that. But we are missing you. We are missing you, Pastor Natasha. We are missing you, Pastor Natasha. Okay, here we go. Please go ahead and share the link to this program. If you remember, we keep on talking about the levels of truth. The levels of truth. And today is part 3. I wanted to do all that in part 1, in one part. Can you believe it? It's like it's not going to work, eh? I was planning to do all that just in part 1 because apart from that level of truth, I still have like 20 other messages on this subject of truth. And now I'm doing one for 3 days. Well, God will help us. So, Theophilus Muiwa said, Pastor, you have just bust my head in the new book review we had a few minutes ago. Yeah, well, for people who don't know this, we actually come on 2 hours earlier. 2 hours ago, I was on reviewing one of my latest books, and the name of the book is The Veritable Source of Energy. The Veritable Source of Energy. So Muiwa said he was there for that review, and he said his mind is thick, like in the boiling water. His mind is still kicking and boiling as a result of what he discovered, what he got to know from that review. So if you have not been following our reviews, if you have not always been following us in at the 5 p.m. Nigerian, 5 p.m. England time reviews, well, I'm sorry, but you know what you could do? You could actually be following on YouTube, not immediately, but afterwards, the same day we try to put those reviews back on YouTube. I think it's put on the book reviews. I think book reviews it should be, or if it's not book review, then it could be Kingdom Fruits. So go and check that out. But today we are continuing our series on the truth. The power and force of the truth is the general topic that we're addressing. But this week we are talking about the levels of truth. I mean, yesterday we spoke about it. Day before yesterday we spoke about the levels of truth. And there are 5 levels of truth. The 5 levels of truth. Okay. What I'm going to do this time, because I've done my best to repeat to you the first 3 levels of truth. Yesterday I spoke about the 3rd one. Day before yesterday I spoke about the 2nd one. Monday I spoke about the 1st one. So I'm going to call on any one of you that remembers, that could tell us in details what you understand from the 1st level of truth. Who remembers the 1st level of truth? Anyone that is here that has been listening to me. If you don't come here, I'm going to point you out. If you don't come by yourself. If he's not willing, he's going to be by force. So you tell me, yeah, come stand in a way that they will see you. You tell us which is the 1st level of truth out of the 5 levels of truth that we're examining.
Okay, so the first level of truth is the truth that you tell yourself.
Oh, you have to be louder, my dear.
Okay, the first level of truth is the truth that you tell yourself about yourself. So it sounds kind of like the second level, but it's really just all about you at this point. What is it that you are telling yourself about yourself? Are you lying to yourself about who you really are? Or are you, trying to convince yourself that you're better than you are, or you're undervaluing yourself or overvaluing yourself to yourself? So an example might be like, you know that you are struggling with some addiction, but you are trying to convince yourself or justify it and say that, oh, well, it's not that bad, or because I'm doing all this good stuff, I'm still a good person. You're trying to cover up all this stuff to yourself. So you're actually lying to yourself first before any other person is involved. You actually have to lie to yourself before, that deception can really take root. So I think that was the...
But there is another aspect of this first level of truth, which you got right. The first level of truth is telling yourself the truth about yourself to yourself. Telling the truth about yourself to yourself, or telling yourself the truth. What does it require for you to be able to talk to yourself about the truth? I mean, to talk to yourself the truth about yourself. What is that as simple as you just said it? What are the requirements for a man, for a woman, for anybody to be able to get to that place where he's able to tell the truth to himself about himself?
I think the words that come to mind are, number one, surrender.
Okay.
Number two, fear of God.
Okay.
And number three, humility, which I think humility and the fear of God go hand in hand. Okay. I think, first of all, you have to lay down all of your defenses, your weapons, your walls, your facade, your mask.
I would need anybody that wants to add to that or say from his own perspective to also come, please. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you have to lay down all these different things that you use to defend yourself, to protect yourself. Self-preservation is also one that Pastor Sunday has spoken about. But all these defenses that you have to be willing to let, untighten your grip, loosen your grip, and let them fall. And then once those things have fallen, then you have to humble yourself. You have to, and I think humility and the fear of God are hand in hand. And I actually have scriptures to pull that out, but I don't know exactly where. But the fear of God, that basically is saying that, where do I have to hide? God already knows me. So let me humble myself under that realization that he knows who I am, and tell him the truth, because when you are speaking to God, you also are working on yourself. So I think that when you are humbling yourself, that is showing respect to what God knows about you. When you're saying, no, this is who I am, and I'm no better than any other person. I'm not, better than what I am doing, and I'm okay. Like, I'm okay as long as I continue to go to God with the truth about who I am. So I would say humility, fear of God, they go hand in hand, and also the ability to surrender all your defenses.
Okay. What about what are the things you would think mostly hinder people from living in this level of truth? This level of truth is the most important because it's the foundational. But there are two things that I would like you to comment on. Number one, Pastor Nkiru, you yourself told me that in this world that we are living in now, in the world of Facebook, and in the world of cell phone, and in the world of gadgets, and in the world of devices, and in the world of smartphones, people hide behind those things, thereby never even finding time, or even finding an excuse rather, from being able to tell the truth about themselves to themselves. That is to you, Pastor Nkiru. You have to expatiate on that and tell me what you think. Okay. But you, Caroline, there is Another aspect of that I want, another aspect of what is taking people or hindering people from telling the truth to themselves about themselves is one culture in America especially and in the West that is called, no, don't do that. If you do that, you are bringing guilt to yourself. So people are trying to avoid guilt. I want to know if you are familiar with that. People are trying to avoid guilt, and so they try to put it under the carpet and just don't face it, never really face who they are, and never really get to a place to tell themselves the truth about themselves because of the deception that if you do that, then you are going to be bringing condemnation to yourself. So let's start with Pastor Nkiro. But repeat what I had said and expatiate.
Yeah, we had a discussion and I said that most of us will rather...
Only it has to be louder because the microphone is...
Yeah,
shaking.
most of us will rather bury themselves in their phones or on their social media instead of just shutting those things up to discover themselves. And the reason to this, first of all, we are not taught to do this. You know, no one teaches us that all the wealth and all the success and everything that we are chasing as human beings are within ourselves. It's only when we take time to know who we are, to discover what we are built from, that's when we can even have a taste of success. But unfortunately, we hide, you know, within the four walls of the social media. Like Pastor described yesterday, we put all kinds of photos that, you know, after doing Photoshop, how beautiful our face is, and, you know, we use all these things to break up even relationships sometimes. So social media has taken over the discovery of ourselves. Instead of just spending some time, an hour, you can hardly find someone that can do without his phone for even 30 minutes. It's like it's a modern time narcotics.
Okay, which means solitude, loneliness, being by yourself, and being alone with yourself is actually one of the best blessings you could give yourself.
Exactly, but we have to define that loneliness so that people won't, you know, misunderstand it. Loneliness means being alone with yourself, being alone with your thoughts, being alone, just like we say, practicing His presence. Because, you know, we say the Lord lives in us, and it's somehow when we start practicing solitude or discovering ourselves or practicing His presence, is when we bring out all the treasures that He has in us. That is where we know even what we are here on earth for. That is where we know what is all inside of us that we can use to bless the world that we are around. You know, that's what we can use to give value to someone else, which is actually what brings out the wealth that we are looking for. So all is hidden inside of us, but we don't take time to search within us to know who we are. And therefore, most of us are miserable. Most of us are in depression, because I believe... Is
it just the telephone or social media that...
Social media and every other thing that can distract us, you know.
Are we doing that intentionally, or we don't even know that is happening to us?
Most of us intentionally. Most of us...
Hiding from ourselves and from the truth.
Yeah. Some people will say, like, I was there too. I was like, I don't want anything to ever disturb my life. You know, after a situation in my life, I'm like, no news, no books, nothing, no information. I will go with what I know already. And I noticed that I started dying from that moment. So when we, you know, some of us will say that we use social media to discover ourselves. Beautiful, you know. But we should create times, daily or monthly or anyhow, that we shut down everything to discover, to just talk to ourselves, to discuss.
Don't forget that the point we are talking about is truth.
Yeah.
And it is looking yourself in the mirror at your own imperfections good and bad, and admitting to yourself and speaking to yourself. But not just speaking to yourself anything, that any deception, but speaking to yourself the truth. Not about your neighbor, not about your mom or dad, not about your husband, not about your children, but speaking the truth to yourself. About, not about the president, not about what's going on in the country, but about yourself. Is that a serious challenge to this generation?
It's a serious challenge because we are not taught. We just love moving by the wind. You know, some say wherever the wind goes, but why we don't realize that is that actually that is where our Savior is. That is where our, whatever that we are looking for every other place is. And talking about telling the truth to yourself, you know, what comes to mind is, you know, you always tell us, be here and now. When you include that policy or philosophy of being here and now, you tell yourself, my name is Nkiru, I'm here right now, you know, I'm a pastor Sunday, so what am I doing? What are you breathing? What are you doing exactly? You know, like for example, if it's somebody that has some problems, you know, you will say, maybe you divorced your husband or something. Say, okay, now my husband left and I'm here alone. What is next? You know, speaking those truths to yourself will help you to map out the plans of escape to your problem. Not map up it, to solve your problem, because we don't call it escape. So, but most of us, we find it difficult to do that conversation with ourselves. And that's the only thing that can heal us, and that's the only thing that can bring solution to whatever we are going through. Talking to yourself and telling yourself the truth.
Okay, your husband is helping you out here. What do you call him? King?
Hero.
My hero. Hero, Superman. Okay. So your hero, Superman, Obi Ojibadu is here, and he's writing a very interesting thing. He's saying addiction to social media actually takes us away from ourselves into the visual world, where we create a dream world for ourselves.
That is true.
So it takes us to a world of illusion,
Right.
from the world of truth. So we travel away from the world of truth about ourselves and begin to live in illusion. And when we do that, we are going away far from God as well.
Right.
Because God is in the truth. Okay, thank you. What about the question I asked you, Caroline? Do you remember? Can you repeat it and then give your comment?
You're saying one of the things that hinders people.
Come forward a little bit. If you don't
You're
mind.
saying one of the things that hinders people from telling the truth to themselves about themselves is this false sense that when you do that, you are incurring guilt upon yourself or condemnation. I think that.
Have you ever heard of that before?
I think
that
that it is maybe not talked about openly, but I think it's a general consensus, something that Christians especially kind of feel,
Okay.
you know, particularly Christians, because that's where the condemnation usually comes is with religion. You know, most regular people do not think about, But I think what I can say is that if you go back to scriptures, there's a scripture that says, you know, guilt is rooted in fear. You know, and to me, fear is, you know, just the other side of the coin of pride, because you're saying that you actually are capable of vindicating yourself or paying for what you've done wrong, but you're not. And it's not until you are able to understand the truth of who God is that you will be able to rest in the truth of who you are. I think that, you know, this idea that when you are truthful to yourself, that you're afraid of the guilt is showing you actually that you need to be truthful with yourself. That there's something there that is hindering you from actually coming to terms with yourself and with God. I think that this whole idea of guilt, I've been through it. I can say in my own life, when I was pursuing God, I was feeling so guilty about, you know, I haven't been, you know, following you like this. I haven't been praying enough. I haven't been walking with you as closely. I haven't been doing this. And what I realized is that that's all a lie. That's all a lie. That's all a lie, because God does not put you up to a standard by yourself. He doesn't say, you now work as hard as you can now to reach my standard. He says, I will come to your level and bring you up. As long as you keep with me, I will always bring you up to my own level. And I think that it just shows you this whole fear of guilt is just one ploy to keep us separated from God. It's to keep us separated, because not until you worship him in spirit and in truth will you ever be really worshiping him. And that truth really comes with you being truthful with yourself, truthful with God, and being able to be truthful with the people that you live with. But like Pastor said, it starts with yourself. So if you're afraid of being feeling guilty or condemned, then it means that you don't yet know love. You don't yet know God. I think pastors touched on it many times before. Many of the people that think that they're Christians now, who are living in this guilt and this fear, will be surprised at the end of their life to find out that because they chose the fear over the trust of who God was, they actually were not Christians at all. And so that's why I say more. If you're going to be afraid of anything, be afraid of you being so consumed by your fear that you miss out on God.
So it means that these people who are afraid of facing themselves and being naked alone with God and facing the truth and letting the truth deal with them, is that they don't really understand the truth. Because what the truth does is that when you are face to face with the truth and you allow the truth to overwhelm you, to purify you, truth actually purifies. Because the Bible says that you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free from all those fears. Truth will deliver you from fear. Truth will deliver you from concerns. Truth will deliver you from that worry. Truth will set you free from every other thing that has been holding you in captivity. So what truth does is that for coming to face with your truth, yes, Satan will always give you fear before you get to that point when you come face to face with the truth. But the reason why Satan is sending you the fear is so that you will never do it. You will never get there. Because he knows that when you get to the place of truth, that's where you meet with God. And that is where you get deliverance from even trying to be, to be the one that will please yourself, to make yourself perfect. That is the place of truth is when you get the grace. Because truth goes alongside together with grace. It says Moses brought the law, but Jesus brought grace and truth. They go together. Grace and truth. So it is that grace that is enabling you to do the work and to be able to do what you were not capable of doing before. So when Satan deceives people not to get to a place of truthfulness, when they go face to face with the truth and begin to speak to themselves the truth and the truth about themselves to themselves, then he has won. He has just overcome them. Anything else you want to say before we move to the next point?
That knowing yourself and becoming free in this freedom of knowing the truth gives you all the courage you need to face all that you need to face. So if you need more courage, if you need more self-esteem, get into yourself, discover the truth about you and tell it to yourself, and you will see yourself so courageous that you start, cutting down mountains that you never knew you would be able to do.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You want to say something more?
I was just going to say, if you're still afraid, I think, the word here is leap, and God will catch you. He will, because he's done it throughout the Bibles. Read every scripture. Every person he ever worked with was a mess. But it's only when they admitted that they're a mess.
Truth.
Yeah. That he came to and said, okay, now I can work with you. All these people who are saying, oh, yes, I'm fine. He'll say, okay, you're fine then. I'm here to help the sick. So if you're going to admit to me that you have a broken leg, I'll fix it. But if you're going to sit there and act like, yeah, you're okay.
Even salvation itself happened at the point of truth. That is why nobody could ever get saved until they get to a place we call repentance. But repentance is actually a point of truth. That is the point where you say, this is who I am, and just as I am. So when you get to a point of truth, when you speak the truth to yourself, about yourself, not about the country, not about the situation, not about circumstances, about yourself, that is when salvation takes place. That's when the grace of God comes. And you don't need to come forward in a service. You don't need to repeat any prayers. It's just something that is happening between you and the truth himself, who is God. So thank you so much, girls. And I'm going to call another set of girls. And while they are coming to talk to us about the second truth, the second level of truth, I see there is Wilson Araromi here. You had helped us do one book, I think one book you did for us, edited, or 2 books. So please, Wilson, will you drop me a line? After today's program, I want to propose to you a book to help me edit. But this time it's not Google edited, it's not Google translated. It is a written book that I wrote, but I just need somebody to work on the grammar for me. So if you can do that, Wilson, drop me a line. Thank you. Yeah, the second level of truth is what? Anybody remembers?
Yes, so the second level of truth is when you tell yourself the truth about another. So this is when you look at people and you observe what are the thoughts that you have, what you have in your heart that you're thinking about this person that will inform the state of your heart, that will inform who you are. So the way I understand it is that you see people, or Pastor said that you see people as an opportunity to learn more about yourself. And you see people as an opportunity of God showing you the state of your heart, showing you how truthful you are about yourself when it comes to looking at people. Do you judge them? Do you point a finger at them? Or do you actually analyze yourself to understand where does your thought process go and what does that tell you about yourself? So,
okay.
Yes, so this is the truth that you tell yourself about something that you see in someone. Rather than judging that person, you use it to speak to yourself that this thing I'm seeing in this person, what does it say to me? What does this mean about this other person? But you say those things to yourself rather than the person in question. So anything that you see the other person as a mirror of yourself. The first one, you see yourself, you look at yourself in the mirror, and in the second one, where you see the person, you tell the truth about another, you use the other to be the mirror of yourself.
What about if you see the other person doing something that is actually really bad?
Yeah.
I think what we've learned...
Can't scare the ladies. They say you have to speak louder or come closer, yeah.
So when you see someone doing something bad that you consider is a sin or whatever it is...
You can lead on this.
It helps you are basically called, if you love the truth, you are called to take that opportunity to first of all look at yourself. First of all, you acknowledge that, yes, this person is not perfect. So,
or he's doing something that is wrong,
exactly.
Which is the truth to yourself about what the guy is doing, what the person is doing.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
but that truth, you are not using it to judge or condemn him. You are using it to
acknowledge.
To analyze yourself.
Yes.
And to acknowledge your own situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're basically using the person or what the person is doing as a tool or an indication to remind yourself that you are not perfect yourself and that you are not in a position to judge the person, but rather to understand that you're both human and that you're both imperfect and that you both need...
Or to find what to improve
in
your own life.
Yeah. And that you both need help. You both need to support each other. And instead of judging, that you should help each other in love.
Okay.
You use the truth about another to identify flaws in yourself, especially if that thing is bad, in a situation where it's bad, to identify weaknesses in yourself, and you tell yourself the truth based on that identification from other people's flaws. So let's say, for example, if somebody have done something wrong that you have never done that thing before, but you use that person's wrongdoing to identify weaknesses in you that could make you do something like that, or that are similar to what that person has done, and you use it to tell yourself a truth or their truth on how to maybe how to develop yourself so that you wouldn't do that, or how to identify other things in yourself, not about that person anymore, but about you, based on what the other person has done, that you can use to develop yourself so that you wouldn't do that, or so that even if there's anything in you that would make you, or it's already hidden in you that could bring that kind of bad thing that you identify in somebody else, you start to work on it. That's what I understand with the second using
So
somebody
in
else's
other
truth.
words, when you see anybody's weakness, you either point an accusing finger and judge the person, or you use that as an opportunity, even if you've never done that thing that that person is doing, even if you've never seen that thing, like you never smoked and you see the person smoking. But instead of you judging and accusing the person, you use it as an opportunity to remember your own weakness, where you are not perfect. But what is the normal reaction? How will we normally have behaved when we see other people, earning and doing things that we would probably not do? And what challenge does this pose to us? This second truth about ourselves.
Well,
First of all, before you speak, I would like you people to know that the commonality between the first and the second one is the fact that you are speaking to yourself still the truth. Even when you are looking at another person, you are speaking to yourself the truth. When you are not looking at another person, the first one is you are looking at yourself and you are speaking the truth to yourself about yourself. But when you are looking at another person, you are speaking the truth to yourself. You are not speaking. It's not about the person. You are speaking the truth to yourself. So it is still about speaking to yourself the truth, even though through the glasses or through the mirror of another person. Yes. So what are the challenges here I could have about let them see your head because or you can just come closer and hold on to
Yes, the challenges we have as individuals is that we
with this second truth.
Yes, with the second truth, which is looking at other people's flaws or problems or anything wrongdoing.
Just like anybody will look at your tattoo right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then instead of them to look at themselves, what mistake they have made in their past or what they are doing wrong right now, they will not normally look at themselves. They will be pointing at accusing finger at you. What kind of a lady is that? How can she have that tattoo? But you don't know her story. You don't know her history. You don't know what that happened, why that happened, and how that happened, when that happened. Maybe before she became a Christian and any other thing. That's why we should never use anything we see in another person to judge them or point an accusing finger at them or even talk about them at all. It is first of all to talk about myself. Once I'm true with myself, telling the truth about myself, then we will get to a point where we could talk to the other person or more people about them.
Yes. And I think, the tattoo is a very good analogy because some people will not do tattoos, but we would do. If I didn't do tattoo, maybe there's something else that I have or that I have done. But because for some reason, as human beings, the challenge that we have is that we want to look at the other person, what they have done, and forget about ours.
What I have done.
Yeah. Not look at what I am doing that might not be a tattoo. It might be something else, but focus on what somebody else is doing that is wrong. It probably make us feel better, and that's the beginning.
But what is the right attitude though about that tattoo? Can you tell us?
Yeah, so I can look at that tattoo based on what I've learned, and it tells me that there's a story behind her choosing to get this tattoo, and it reminds me of the things I have done that someone else may not understand because they don't know what I have gone through to make this mistake or whatever. Yeah.
And then so that's where you stop out, because the truth is making that truth, whatever I have seen there, making me better.
Yeah. So
do I want to condemn her, or I want to help her, Or do I just want to look at myself and stop at that? Or it has to get to a place of action? And it has to get to a place of action because I have to either do something better and, good about myself, or I do something kind or better to her. I reach out to her with love and cover her with love and reach out to her and actually act out the truth that I've exposed myself to through her. So it doesn't just stop. It's just like when I tell myself also the truth about myself, I shouldn't just stop at that as well. I should go beyond that and, act it out. If I said I've spoken the truth to myself about myself and I see my own situation, I see the truth about myself, I've spoken, it doesn't just stop at speaking. I must also now say, okay, what are the decisions that I'm making now? And what are the steps that I'm taking? What are the actions to follow this truth that I've just spoken to myself? Because it is the actions that follow that will reveal to other people that, yes, I'm living in the truth. There must be a corresponding action. There's correspondent action. And the same thing when you also look at other people, even though you didn't judge them, even though you came to a conclusion about looking at yourself and, not judging them, but whatever conclusion you came to must be acted out one way or the other. I don't know if you guys are getting it.
Yes, because I think as Christians, we're good at saying that, okay, I'm not going to judge, but we don't use that information or that we know to assess ourselves. We just stop at, okay, I'm not going to judge, I'm just going to leave this person alone, but we condemn the person in our hearts, and we don't use what we've seen to actually take the action to improve ourselves and also to make that person better. If we're going to even say anything or do anything about what we've seen, we just said, okay, I'm just going to stop at not taking any action. So not taking an action, not saying anything, but in our hearts, we've condemned the person totally. We think that they're lower than us. And even thinking that, it's almost like we're lowering our own self as a person, and we don't know it. We do that all the time, because I always say that I'm not going to judge somebody. I'll just leave them because I have so many flaws. I get that part, but I don't take the next step of actually using what I said I wasn't going to judge the person on to assess myself and develop myself further. I just know that, okay, I have flaws and this person have this flaw. I'm not going to say anything. I don't care, but I don't take actions. I don't process that any further to help me or the person.
It means that you only said you will not judge the person, not because of truth, but it's just because it's a principle, or it's because it's a rule, or because, but if it's the truth will also reflect back to yourself. The purpose of the truth is for you yourself to see yourself and to be able to be transparent with the truth so that you will be one with the truth. The goal of the truth is that you'll be one with the truth. You'll be united with the truth. And to be united with the truth, it's not just enough to say, I'm not going to judge that person, but you are going to allow the truth about what you are learning from that person's life to make you better. But not just make you better, you must also think in terms of how can that truth that I've now discovered, which has helped me to be better, be reflected to that other person to make that other person better as well, or to make my world better at large.
Mm-hmm. I also think,
you get it?
Yeah.
So that is another level that I'm trying to let you see. And the same thing must happen even when I'm by myself, when I'm alone with God and alone with myself and alone with the truth. And when I'm speaking to myself and about the truth about myself, and I'm seeing who I am and what has happened, it must lead me to a decision. And from that decision, it must also lead me to some actions about myself. Then besides actions about myself, it must also lead me to actions about the world that I live in, about my family, about my environment, about people around me. That truth that is purifying me, that truth that is illuminating me, must also go beyond just me. It must go beyond just illuminating me. It must go beyond me and illuminate the world around me. That is how they see through my actions that I've encountered the truth. Because my action now tells a different story. They can now see that I'm no more quiet. They can now see that I'm doing something about it. So faith without work is dead. So my faith also must produce works. I don't know if you are getting it.
Yes.
I was going to say that knowing this,
louder because of the
knowing this truth now, like if I find myself in such a position where I see a person who has done something wrong, and I take that opportunity to to tell myself the truth about myself to the truth about that person to myself, it actually helps me to take the courage to go to this person,
Yes.
to actually ask the person, who are you? And, get
What
to
is
know
your
the
story?
exactly behind what that action is or that tattoo is. It gives me the humility to approach the person, not because I want to go and I see myself as an agent of change and I have to go and change this person, but I have to go and share this love and that understanding with her, to understand who is this person.
Or I
what
just
is
go
behind-
not to ask the person about the tattoo, but I could go and tell her my story.
Yeah.
And as a result of my story, she might be touched or want to share her story as well.
Yeah.
So I go and reveal to her the truth about myself, not even bothering about her situation.
Yeah.
She might not even know that was what prompted me to her in the first place.
Yeah.
But when she feels the love of my touch and of my truth, then she herself wants to reveal to me her truth.
Yeah, I think this says to me actually that maybe in the first instance, even if I see something about someone that I don't like or I think that they've done wrong, the first instance is not to point those things out. Following, even assessing myself and telling myself the truth. The first instance is just to love the person as they are.
Yes.
And engage with them, understand them before I even raise this. The issue is not about what they've done anymore. I've used what they've done that I think that is
To
wrong
improve myself.
to improve myself. But it's also an opportunity for me to even foster a relationship with them. So rather than just walking away and saying, okay, they've done this, I know that it's wrong, I'm not going to do it, and I'm going to speak to myself, but just go, move on. I haven't done anything at that point. I'm not even dealing with the truth there. But actually developing a relationship, getting to know them, telling them about myself later on at some point, and then maybe they will tell me about themselves or not. But at least I've already identified the truth, and I didn't let what they did wrong to stop me from engaging with them and showing them love. So that's actually important to me, because I didn't realize that yesterday when the day that you raised this, I actually thought that it's just telling myself the truth about the situation, but moving on at that point, but not taking the actions, and also using those actions to not just the action at the surface at the beginning, but using that action to continue to still deal with somebody in love. Because we're very prone to, when somebody does something wrong, we cut them. I'm actually prone to that. When they do something wrong and I can identify that it's wrong, and I can say to myself that I'm never going to do that, and I'm going to watch not doing that. But what I do is I cut the person off. I just say, I can't deal with this person. I don't want to be their friend. I know that they're wrong, that, they're not right. And I do that with almost as many people as I can, really. That's just my own way. I identify, I look at myself in the mirror, I said, okay, I do this wrong. They've done this wrong. From yesterday, yes, I also say to myself, I'm not going to do this. I've been wrong in this area, so I understand that. But I cut them off. I don't want to have anything to do with them, because I don't want them to do it.
So what you got now is?
Yeah, so what I've got now is, if I make it truth, if it is really truth, then I'm dealing with it in truth, and I identify that this person is wrong, and let me identify something about myself that it is wrong, or something about what they've done that I also do that is wrong. It doesn't stop there. The truth is extended to me still engaging with that person, but understanding that with time, maybe if I do get to know the person further, or even if it's somebody that I've known, because this usually happens with somebody that you know very well. It doesn't happen mostly with people that you don't know. You just move on when they do something wrong. But you might be family members, it might even be your friend that did something to you. You identify that what they've done is wrong, but you then cut them off and say, right, they've done something wrong. Yes, I'm not going to do that, so you're not my friend anymore. And this causes a lot of ills in the world. I know that there's so many people that we've had a great time together, and then they did something wrong to me. And I'm thinking, okay, this is really, really terrible. I don't like what they've done. I'm not going to do what they've done to me. But again, I'm not going to be their friend anymore. I'm just going to stay away from them as much as I can.
But what did you now understand?
So
You keep on repeating what
Yeah.
you used to do before.
Okay, so I understand now that I need to
moving,
But,
what do you learn?
the actions that I need to take is, okay, still be friends with that person. Maybe continue to engage with them and tell them some of the things, communicate with them what I don't like, when, especially with somebody that I've known for a long time.
Well, that's not the first stage. The first stage is that whatever they have done, use it to be a blessing to you. Use whatever they have done to speak the truth to yourself, about yourself again.
Okay.
Then the second thing you need to do is that once you know that whatever they have done is no more annoying you, whatever they have done is no more making you mad, that you are free from that, then go ahead from there and say, okay, how can this thing that they have done improve me or make me a better person? So then you begin to work about on yourself. Then the third thing you're supposed to do is, if this thing they did is so bad that I'm irritated, that I'm angry, that also shows me something about myself, that I have an issue, especially if I'm angry about them. Then you need to ask yourself the question, am I angry about them, or I'm angry about the bad behavior? So if my anger is about the evil that is done or the sin that is committed, then it doesn't touch them. So then I have to question myself from there and say, okay, do I still love them though? So if I still love them, but I still have the anger, but the anger is towards the bad thing they did, but I still love them, then I'm free. Then I'm victorious. Then from there, I must now ask myself, what are the actions I could take to, now I've learned a lesson from this thing, the bad thing they have done. So what are the actions? What are the corresponding actions? So the corresponding action should be, if I've learned this lesson that, okay, I should love them, I might not even be ready to reach out to them yet. But since I have the anger and since I have the irritation about the sin, I could reach out to the sin and begin to attack the sin and begin to condemn the sin and begin to kill the sin, because that is actually what needs to change. So from me dealing with that sin and dealing with that evil, they could get to know without me even talking to them, without them even knowing that I got pissed off from whatever they did. But just for me resolving that problem, not just for them, but for the whole world, and not just for myself, but generally, just eradicating and uprooting that evil, they could see they could get to see the truth. Because sometimes they might not even be ready to receive me or to want to listen to me to come to tell them the truth. Maybe they just, but I could still deal with that situation. I could still uproot that evil. I don't know if you people are getting what I'm saying.
Yes.
So that way, the truth has brought forth a concrete fruit.
Yes. I think what I'm getting is that we need to separate the wrongdoing, the sin, from the person, from the individual person.
Louder, please.
I think what I'm getting here is that we need to separate the wrongdoing from the person that is doing the wrong.
Yes.
And once we've separated that and identified that, we can still engage with the person, and without mentioning what they've done wrong, then we can progress with still engaging with that person without even the person knowing. Then secondly,
because you have to be ready to approach them. Sometimes you are not ready to approach them. Sometimes you are still feeling discomfort to some extent. And sometimes they are not even ready to receive that truth.
Yeah. And the other aspect is that taking actions, making that thing that you identify, that you've told yourself that is wrong, making it something that you deal with that. You deal with that in the sense that you work on that. You pronounce that as something that is wrong, almost speaking about it, speaking out about it, about that issue, not hiding that issue, that problem, that sin, using that sin to make yourself better, to make your world better. Don't say, okay, this is something that I don't like, I don't want to deal with it, hide under the carpet about that issue, but making known that this issue is wrong, don't even deal with the person, or talk about the person on the issue, but talk about the problem on the issue. Don't hide that, so that becomes a product that change the world, that change you, that permanently change you and change the world. I think that's what I'm getting from it.
Also, it reminds me of what you spoke about when you talked about silence, that we are not supposed to expose the individual, but we're supposed to expose the evil. So it's not about going and pointing fingers and saying you are bad, but it's about identifying what is bad. And this has nothing to do with the person, because the person can still change their ways. The person can still repent and, ask for forgiveness and everything, which also applies to us. So we are supposed to look beyond the evil and address the person and approach the person in love. And I think it helps to put this to also inform how you have your relationship with God. Like if you have time for solitude and you go back to pray, you will know what exactly to pray about, because you have done the inventory of yourself. So you are going to tell God the truth about yourself as well, because you know yourself, because you have used the people around you to assess your own state.
To tell yourself the truth.
Yeah, to tell yourself the truth about yourself. So this is how you can now approach God, to tell God, look, this is who I am, because you've done the work, and this is how you put into practice the theory.
Yes, and I also think that this is how we grow as individual, and also come out of ourselves, of our own ego, that we're not perfect being. So by being able to identify what is wrong and actually addressing that wrong and dealing with it and making it something that is known, the wrong thing known, we grow as well, because we can be angry about a lot of things, but we don't take any actions on it. We just let the anger fester in us, but there's no actions, that no positive product comes out of it. It's just negative that is inside. So this way you grow. This is how you literally grow mentally, physically, emotionally, because you're actually dealing with the problem and you're addressing the problem, not addressing the person. Even if you're going to identify any person with a problem, it's yourself that you identify with it. So I think this is, because I don't understand how we grow really, other than if we don't do this type of inventory on ourselves, on the things that we see, the things that we don't like, then, how do we grow? And also not even just knowing those things, but using those things to take actions, to take positive action for it to become a product, for it to be changed into another energy. Speaking about energy today, to be converted into another energy, an energy that will be positive rather than the negative. That's what I see.
Okay, before you people go, let's look at the third. Today, actually, we have to correct the title there. We have to say that there is a practical, what do we call it? The practice, or the practical, the practice of the principles, practicing the principles. So, because we're practicing the 3 principles we've learned already, then we are still left with 2 more principles. So, the principle number 3 that we are going to talk about. No, I think I will just let you go. Let me invite the 2 girls back again, so that they will tell me about the 3rd principle. Do you people remember the principle number 3?
Yes, telling the truth.
Louder or
the
closer?
3rd principle was telling the truth about yourself to others.
Okay.
I believe there's a delineation between the ministerial type of doing it and the ability to admit to others the truth about who you are. So that was the
what is the description I gave? How is that described, that point? What is the meaning, and what's the difference between that and the first 2
You
ones?
said like
Louder, please, because
the first one you are telling. Is it between the first and the second?
no,
the
don't
third
worry.
and the second?
Okay, just talk about the 3rd one then.
Okay. The 3rd one is telling the truth about yourself to others. And you said that there are 2 ways to it, like telling the truth about yourself to others to edify the people. You gave
To what?
Edify.
To
people.
edify.
Yeah. You gave an example of, for example, you had an abortion or something. You just don't go about, telling everybody I did an abortion, or, I just was disvirgined or whatever. But if you're doing that on the purpose of like a cause, like trying to make people heal, which actually I opened a
ministry.
page, to minister to somebody, then that makes sense. But if you're just saying it for saying sake, that is all nonsense. It should not be so, because you also teach that you just don't throw your pearl to the pigs. Somebody that will take nothing from it or will even misunderstand you from what you're saying. So, but on the other hand, there are some truths you have to tell people about yourself. It's like, even if they weigh you, okay, you gave an example, like you have some people that do packaging. Like when you look at them, they're all dressed up, or they have some cars that are driving, for example, but they have nothing. They're living in Ajegule, for example. Is that what we said? I hope I'm not missing it. No. So it means that you are telling a lie about yourself. Now, when you come to people, for example, for help, if you have shown up yourself that you're a millionaire, for example, it's a deception. You are deceiving the people. When you come to people and ask for help, the person will really think twice. It's not saying that you're not supposed to dress well, but the way you act and the way you represent yourself should tell people who you are. They shouldn't misread you by the way you present yourself. Or you have nothing and you're going about making mouth, I have this, I have the other thing, when you're totally empty inside. Like he gave an example, you are a dwarf inside, but you are representing yourself as if you are an Iroko tree, all big and full and everywhere.
Yes, this point, what you should remember about this point is this. This point is all about hypocrisy. Yes, that's what you should, one very important thing you must remember about this particular point. This point here is about how you portray yourself to the outside world. Not just to another in the sense of another person, but to the outside world. What is the image that you sell? How do you present yourself? Are you presenting the truth, or you are presenting deception? And I used an example, and I said most people sell and present themselves as deception, lies, and they don't know God because they don't live in the truth. So they are not who they portray themselves to be. And I even spoke about cosmetics, that some people could use cosmetics to make themselves better, but most people use cosmetics to present who they are not, to sell a lie and deception, and to just, because they are living deception, their whole lifestyle is deception. Then I spoke about, Facebook profiles and social media profiles, that it is all about what people want people to know about themselves, even though they know the truth about themselves. But are you presenting the truth about yourself to others? Or you are presenting lie about yourself to others? Is your life, are you living the truth or you are living the lie? Is your own life representing what is real, what is true, what you stand for? That doesn't mean that you are perfect, but you don't need to be perfect, but you could come forward and tell people that you are not perfect. So it is the truth that is more perfect, better than perfection. The truth before God is more powerful than perfection. Before God, because God himself knows that you will never be perfect. But he's more interested that you admit that truth, that you are living that truth, that you are actually walking in the truth of who you really are. Because it is that truth that will now bring you to a place of repentance. But if you just are one inside and you are presenting another picture outside, that is what we are talking about here. And that is what Jesus was always attacking in the gospel. He was always attacking hypocrisy. He was always attacking Pharisees. And this is what Phariseeism means. It means that you are painting another picture which does not collaborate with the picture of the truth that you know about yourself. So this is a fight against hypocrisy. This is a fight against deception, not just of yourself now, but of others. I don't know what people have to say to that.
This
And later on,
scripture,
you
I think
will add to it.
you quoted it yesterday, comes to mind. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. So most of the time, we paint that picture to people like, look at me, I'm all dressed up. Like most people condemn what I wear. They're thinking that, it's when you're covered up, that's when you're closer to God. But, it might be a deception. I'm not saying that those are covered up are not close to God, but it does not say who you are. It's what is in your heart that says. And so that tells me that it's not by appearance, though we should all look good. It's not by what we say, though we should be educated and be knowledgeable, or be, have some wisdom. But it all depends on the purity in our hearts and a pure heart. That's what we defend us.
The thing that I remember from getting from yesterday about the third level, for me, the shocking thing was
One Jide is writing here. Jide is quoting me and says, to God, the truth is more powerful than perfection. No, I said to God, the truth is more important than perfection. Important, not powerful. Important. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes. So the third level that I heard yesterday, or the thing that Pastor said that was the most shocking to me, was the fact that it's not just the fact that you would overrate who you really are to the world, but that you would also underrate who you are to the world. I think
it's not in line with the truth, right?
It's not, no. But in comparison to who you actually are, you can either present a very boastful, overrated picture of yourself, or you can post an underrated picture for yourself. And I think that what that revealed to me is that both are two sides of the same coin. It's both pride. On the one hand, one person is saying that I am really this great person, and so therefore you should...
Exaggeration.
Yeah, exaggeration. Therefore you should heed me, or you should revere me, or you should respect me. And on the other hand, which is more so I think my own problem, is the fact that you would portray a lesser picture of yourself so that you can get people to stop looking at you, or you are kind of almost fear more so in the pride area. Almost like, you are not so proud, or you are not so sure about what you have, so you underrate it. But either one is a lie. Both of them are lies. Of them. So instead of assessing yourself accurately, which I believe there's a scripture about that as well, assessing yourself accurately and presenting the accurate picture of who you are to the world, you are actually trying to manipulate people's perception of you. So that they don't see, or they see something better, or they see something, less attractive, so that you can protect yourself, you can preserve yourself in some way. And so that was the most shocking thing for me, because sometimes, when you are maybe an introvert like me, or you're a person who is maybe, I don't even want to use the word humble, because it's almost false humility. Yeah. Because what you're really doing is you're basically insulting what God has put inside of you by saying, oh, don't look at me. So that was the most shocking thing that I remember from yesterday, is the fact that he's not saying all the people who are boastful are evil, or they're the ones who are wrong. But anybody who is not accurately presenting what is inside of them to the world, it doesn't mean that you have to, if you know bad things are happening inside of you, you just have to let yourself go. It just means that you need to be willing to be honest about that. Be willing. Don't go out of, I guess the intention should not be to manipulate with how you present yourself in speech, in dress, in whatever. The intention of your heart should never be to manipulate. Now, if someone sees you as better than you think that you are, well, that is on them. But your intention, your own personal intention, the truth that you are actually using within yourself should not be manipulated. It should not be doctored. You should not be, choosing your clothes or your speech or to doctor people's perception of you, I think.
Brilliant. Then I also spoke about yesterday the fact that you should also, when I say the third level of truth is speaking the truth about yourself, this is something personal. This is something private when you are speaking the truth about yourself to others. Mm-hmm. One level of that is presentation of just the image that you are presenting. That is a general form of it. But a more personal form of it or intimate form of it is actually telling other people some intimate truth about yourself to others. Then what is the qualification here, as I said yesterday? What is the qualification? Does anybody remember? Or do you just go about telling everybody?
I remember you saying that people need to have proven that they have your best interests in mind. They need to have proven that they deserve the truth that you're sharing with them. And definitely I used to be one of these people too who, you know, would just kind of share all my issues with people. But, you know, it was fruitless at the end of the day because I was not using wisdom to choose who I was telling. And it wasn't like bad things happened to me, but whatever I felt like I was going to get by sharing, I did not get it because I did not qualify this person. I did not say, God, is this a person who might be able to, you know, take what I'm saying to them and help me or heal me, or, you know, what have they done, or how have they proven themselves? It doesn't mean that they were with you for 10 years, but maybe they have gone through the similar struggle. And when I think there was one time where, you know, I told one person who had gone through this struggle and had been open. She had gotten this truth where she was open now to tell other people about her own struggle, that now it was safe for me to go to her and say, this is my struggle, because she had gotten to the place now where she could edify people with her truth. And then it became clear to me at that point that it's better for you to use wisdom, listen to God, and see who is the person who's best so that I can tell this truth to. And maybe there's one truth you can tell to one person and another truth that you can tell to another person, but I think that there's wisdom and discernment that has to go, as Pastor said yesterday. This person has to have proven themselves in some way, shape, or form. They have to have qualified themselves to be responsible with the truth that you want to give them.
So that they don't take advantage of you and they don't abuse it or misuse it.
Or just become not even, some people just didn't even know what to say. So it was just fruitless. It was just you just divulging into almost like emptiness. Like, it's just, why did you need to tell that information? It was just, they just nod their head and say, oh, I'm sorry. You know, like.
That's not even bad, but there are people who will take advantage of that and use it against you tomorrow.
Yeah, I have an example of that. I had some people I shared my issues with, and just a little quarrel came up, and this person just, in front of everybody, just let out all that I told her in the secret. And it was a shock for me. So we should choose those that we share our secrets or things that, you know.
They must be qualified.
Yeah, they must
not
be qualified.
Not just choosing. There must be a basis for the choosing.
Yeah, qualification. The people should be qualified.
And the qualification is that they have, over the years, proved to you that they have your best interest at heart. Yeah. And the example is, for example, your parents, or somebody who's been there for you for so many, many years and many, many times, and have proven to you through one way or the other that they are real, that they have your best interest at heart. They have proved it, other than those people who have not proved to you that they have your best interest at heart.
Yeah, and the other one you talked about is...
louder, please.
The other one you talked about is, I mentioned a bit earlier, is when you use, for example, you see someone that is hurting, and you know that if you tell this person your truth, it will help the person to heal faster. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one of the things that I do. That when I see someone hurting, I tell the person... Yeah,
that's ministry.
Yeah, I tell the person my truth, and the person will see that he's not in any trouble at all, that God has his back and we see him through. So when we minister to someone through our own pains, it's a sign of healing and a way of ministering.
And that also means that you have arrived at a point of truth,
right,
to be able to do that.
Right.
The truth has set you free. Now you can use that same truth to help other people and set them free. Right. Beautiful. Now I would like the girls to come. And before we, this is number 3. This is truth level 3. Remember, I want to remind you again, level 1 of truth. There are 5 levels of truth. The first level of truth is the fact that you tell yourself the truth about yourself. You look yourself in the eyes, in the face, and tell yourself the truth about yourself. Number 2 level of truth is that you tell yourself also the truth about another person, about other things that are happening, about other events that are happening, but you don't use that to talk the truth to the other person, but you tell the truth to yourself about that thing that is happening or about that person that has happened. I mean, that is the thing has happened to or whatever that person did. But number 3 is that you use, you yourself tell other people the truth about yourself. You tell the truth about yourself to other people. So, but that is in your lifestyle every day, and then in your communication every day. So, anything you want to add to that?
I think it's very important to know who you are in order to do that, because many people, like if I think of fashion,
and knowing who you are is knowing the truth.
Yes.
It's being established in the truth. You see, knowing who you are can only come by getting to know the truth about yourself, your identity, and getting set free in that truth, and being free in that truth, and being established in that truth. That's exactly what we're talking about. It is the truth that only does that. You can only know yourself by the truth, and
Yes.
from the truth, and through the truth.
Yeah. So I think about fashion, for example, that many people, especially women who don't know who they are, they look for people to copy, especially celebrities. So they look for these images and try to make them their own, while that is actually not the truth about themselves. They don't know themselves, and that's why they search around and try to, be someone they are not. And I think that is one way of knowing that, you're living a pretentious, like you're living a life of pretense. And this third level really showed me that it's that importance of really having an identity, and that identity, deriving that from the truth and really living it. And so you wouldn't even have to think about, what should I wear, or what should I say, or how should I do this, how should I do that, because you have that identity already in yourself.
No, I think what to wear, but I look for what to wear from inside myself.
Yes. I'm saying
and
you
what
don't
I am informs what I wear.
Yes. I'm saying you don't look at the outside to inform what you have to
You could,
wear.
but when you look outside, you are not looking to copy somebody, but
Yes.
you are looking to study what is there, what best reflects who I am.
Yes.
And then you pick what reflects who you are, and then you dress yourself from inside outside.
Yeah. That's I agree with that, and that's basically what I was going to say, because that's what I do when it comes to my own way of dressing myself or styling myself. I look for things that really suit me, that represent myself and who I believe I am in the inside and how God sees me. So that is something that should inform the way that we, even on Facebook, on various platforms at work, wherever we go, it should inform how we're supposed to behave. And the other thing was already mentioned, I think, what I was going to say.
I think for me, informing other people about myself.
Not informing. We are focusing on the truth.
Telling the truth about myself to somebody else.
Okay.
It's what informs love, as far as I'm concerned, and also potential. Because if you can actually sit down and tell somebody, or even however you do, about who you are, it says that you know who you are, and also you trust somebody else, and also you have potential to be a better person. You have potential to change. You're not saying that this is it for me. You're saying that I also have this truth, or I have this problem, or I have this challenge, or this has happened to me, and I can share it with you because I love you. You're looking beyond the surface, you're looking within, and you also understand that you have potential, you have a creator, and you haven't lost hope. Because if you fail to, I feel like if you don't tell people about yourself in the right way, in the informed way, not anyhow where you're just sharing your problem with the wrong people, but just telling somebody about yourself, you're saying that you have something bigger than yourself, and you're going to develop and be better. and this is not the end of you. This is, for me, the beginning of being human, where you can share your flaws or you can share your problems with somebody else and feel comfortable to do so. And even in a situation where, you know, it might be unfortunate that that person might say something, or in the future, it shouldn't even make any difference. You know, even being able to share that alone shows, for me, that that person is together, if it is done in the informed way. Because sometimes we do have people that we've known for a long time that we've said that that, like our parents, but our parents could still make a mistake. They could still tell other people or do something about the information that we give them, the truth about ourselves. So just being able to and comfortably saying that to yourself, that even when I am still happy, whatever the outcome is, but just being able to do that.
That
with the
I'm
right
walking
people.
in the truth.
I'm working in the truth. You know, I can look. It's almost like looking at self in the mirror through somebody else as well. For me, that is that through somebody else. Identify that that mirror may crack. You know, the other person, it may crack. Something may happen, but a cracked mirror doesn't necessarily mean that that truth about me or my reflection, what I see about myself, has changed. So even in the situation when somebody comes and tells your story, or they ridicule you about it, it doesn't change the fact that you are somebody that is able to make an assessment of the truth about yourself and share that truth with somebody else that you love, you care about, in the right process, in the process of not just seeing anybody on the street and just saying those things, you know, to release yourself. It's not about just releasing yourself of, oh, I just want to tell you this, I want to confess what I've done. It's about you knowing that this is a truth about me. I want to share this with somebody else. I want them to grow, and I also want to grow. And whatever happens later on would not even make any difference, because you know who you are, you know what is built inside of you. So I think for me, this is my favorite one. When, you know, each one they're quite good, but this is also good because this is what connects us to others. This is what connects us. The first and second, you know, is something that you work on yourself, you do by yourself. But this third one is really what makes us human with other people. You know, what makes us like godlike, like Christ-like. Yes, Christ-like. This is the one that makes us Christ-like. And it could be challenging, it could be difficult. We might want to even share things with just friends. And even friends sometimes can fail us. But if we understand that even in telling these things or sharing these things, the purpose is not for them to keep it and just be our friends forever and be loyal to us. The purpose is not that, because I don't see it as that. It's not about loyalty from the other person. It's just about you being able to identify a truth and share a truth with somebody else about yourself. You know, and
which means that truth had already set you free.
Yes.
And that's why you are free
Yes,
enough
yeah.
to be able to share with other people.
Exactly. So I'm free in totality, regardless of even what happened with them later.
The next question I have for you people is, what did I say yesterday about people and preachers who live in secrecy and who cannot share or expose their lives? And they only have the pulpit life. Or not just preachers, but generally people who are hidden, who don't want you to know even where they live or what their telephone numbers, or you don't know anything about them. You only come to see them on Sundays. And you know, what does secrecy say? When you are hiding away from the truth, when you cannot share when you are not practicing this third level of truth.
I think it's perpetual fear that it creates in a person. And also,
No, what is making somebody to live in that kind of secrecy that it cannot, and it doesn't get to this third level of truth? Why is it that people don't live a life that they can portray and they make themselves vulnerable, or, you know, to open up or to let people know what their lives is, to just make their lives an open book? What is stopping people from doing that, from what I said yesterday? Okay.
deception.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's definitely deception and not knowing who you are. Feeling like you have to camouflage something about who you are. You don't know who you are. You don't know your identity. So you want to deceive somebody instead of identifying the truth about yourself, going through the first and second steps. you don't want to. And also, you want to feel superior to other people. You know, if they don't know anything about you, then there's nothing that they can use against you. You think that there's nothing they can use against you because they don't really know who you are. So you're pretending to be what you're not. So eventually you're going to be living in delusion. So I think first thing is that is deception.
But it's not just you living in delusion. Even people following you are living in delusion.
Yes, that's right. But I think also people that follow people like that are also people that are deceptive to some extent. Because,
or deceived.
Yes. So they're deceived and also they're deceptive because until you go through those stages, if I'm your friend and I'm a certain way and I'm open, I share my home, you know, you don't just see me in the pulpit or you don't just see me outside, but you are the opposite type of friend. I don't go to your house, I don't know anything. Our continuation of friendship would be a deception. It would be a deception on both our parts.
I'm sorry, I've not been telling people to share. I've just been taken over by this, our exercise. Please go and share. If you have not yet shared this message, go look under your video and share the message. This might be a very important blessing to some people.
Yeah, so I was saying that for somebody to continue over time with people like that is because they are also deceptive. So both parties are deceptive. The preachers that does this, they're deceptive people. And the congregation, the people that allows that and continues to allow that are also deceptive. If you don't go through those processes, a lot of us live in deception for a long time without even knowing. So if we don't go through step one where we're telling ourselves the truth about ourselves, and we're not going through the second step where you're telling yourself truth about somebody else, then you accept those type of life. You live that kind of lifestyle, which is a camouflage of who you are, and you lose yourself totally. You don't know who you are until maybe one day, many, many years later, somebody wakes you up or something happens, an event happens that changed that for you. But a lot of people live a false life. You know, at some point, maybe I have also lived a false life because I wasn't taking the inventory of all these things where I was just living like a zombie and I wasn't taking any inventory. I wasn't questioning the things around me. I wasn't questioning the people around me. I wasn't questioning what I was doing. Yes, I react to things. I'm always reactive. So when I see something that I don't like, I say, oh, I'm upset, I don't like this, and then I don't do any assessment of it. I just take the next action and then live another deceptive life without taking these steps. I think these steps are vital. So anybody that is living a life or this third stage where there's no truth about themselves to other people is because they haven't done number one, they haven't done number two, and they're not prepared to, and their identity of themselves is deception. It's not their true
what about
identity.
if these are pastors who are leading thousands of people? What does that tell the members who are following them?
Yeah, so I would agree with what Maya was said, and I would say that many people who are like that are, in my eyes, insecure. They're not secure about who they are because first of all, they don't know it, and then they are afraid of vulnerability. They're not transparent because they're afraid that people may not respect them or people may...
Okay, if you are talking about fear, that they are afraid, but that's what I did yesterday. I showed you a scripture yesterday from John chapter 3, verse 18 and 19 and 20, especially 19 and 20, that says that the light has come to the world, but people hate the light or are afraid of the because they hate the light, so they are afraid to come to the light. So they run away from light because their deeds are evil. So you see where fear comes from. Fear comes from people who are engaged in lies, engaged in deception, or who are doing evil, not living according to the truth. Fear could only come from lack of truth. Fear is coming from you not facing the truth, not being immersed in the truth, not embracing the truth, and not being overwhelmed by the truth. So because you are far from the truth, you are running away from light. And so because your deeds are evil. So that's why people are afraid. You are afraid of coming to the light because you have evil deeds, which means that you have not embraced the truth. You are not living in the truth.
Yeah, so they're afraid that by being transparent, their evil deeds will be exposed. So they try to pretend and have portray a life that is not, not the actual reality, so that people will not discover what is behind the scenes. And I also think that there is an issue of, because you also spoke about perfect love casts out all fear. And I think that people like that just lack love. They lack the love of God, the true love of God that will cast out the fear that they have, or that the people...
You cannot have love of God without embracing truth.
Yeah.
You see, there are three aspects, three things that you people must note, which are working together and which are all God. The identity of God, just like three of us are here right now, God's identity is wrapped in these three things. Those three things are: God is love. God, the way to him is truth. You cannot embrace God's love without acknowledging the truth about yourself, the truth about the fact that you need him. When you admit to yourself that you need him, that you are in need, that this is who you are, that you are naked, that you are in need, that admission of truth brings you to invites the love of God to your life, and that love brings the light of God. So there are three things: the love, God who is God of truth, God who is God of love, God, the same God, and cannot be separated from his truth. And that same God, when you know the truth, you cannot remain in darkness. Once you know the truth, that truth sets you free from darkness. Light comes along with the truth. So three things go together. Whenever you think of God, think of him in these three terms. Don't just think of God in terms of abstract. Don't just think of God. You know what religious people do is that they just say, God is the word of God. God is the Bible. God is love. But they don't really get a picture of that. It's just like some religious words. But if you want to capture the idea of God, if you really want to know God, each one of those three things are God. Love is God. Truth is God. Light is God.
Yeah.
So these three things is how you see God. So if you want to know God, seek truth or seek love. But for you to get to his love, you must find out the truth. You must get to the truth. And when you discover the truth, illumination comes. Truth brings illumination. Truth brings light. So all that is all the three components of God that you are interacting with every day, and that we must all embrace all the time. I don't know if that is clear enough or it's not so clear.
Yes, it's clear, but your question was that why these people continue to do it. So
you understand the reason why now?
Yes,
Because
yeah.
they run away because they don't have the truth. They are involved in the works of darkness. Because without the truth, you cannot have light. It is the truth that brings light. And because they don't have that truth, they are living in darkness. So they don't really have the love of God too.
Yes.
I don't know if you people are getting it.
Yes.
So when a pastor or a leader cannot expose his life, I'm not saying every detail, like saying, but when they cannot come out and tell people there, when he's not projecting who he is, when he cannot be vulnerable or be transparent or make people see what he's doing, what his life is about, and you only see him once in a while or from the stage or the pulpit, and it's hidden, his lifestyle is hidden, no lifestyle, nothing, you cannot see, nobody knows what he's living. It's just like some myth or some spirit that is just coming. And then, or when a pastor or ministers try to make everything look so perfect and pious, that means they're living in hypocrisy. That means they're living in lie. And what is that lie? They are portraying to you that they are perfect, whereas we know that none of us is perfect. No human being can be perfect. That's the truth. So why should I portray that pious lifestyle to you? Even though we're saying that is holy, oh, that man must be holy, but he's actually lying to you. He's actually living in deception to you, because by trying to live a pious life, by trying to present himself as so pious and so, holy and so, perfect, he's lying to you, and you are now thinking that that is how it means to be a minister. That is how it means to be a pastor, and you have to be perfect like that. Then you begin to face your own reality that it's not easy for you to be perfect. That when you begin to try to be like him, to be perfect like him, you begin to fail. You begin to stumble. You begin to see that it's not working out for me to be perfect, but he is perfect. You begin to judge yourself. You begin to judge him. You begin to judge God. You begin to run away from God. You begin to think that, why is it working for him and it's not working for me? But he is perfect. Everybody is perfect. I'm the only one who is not perfect. But it's not true that everybody is perfect. It's just because some leaders have sowed lie to us. And they sowed lie to us because they have not lived on this level of truth. And this third level of truth is what we are talking about, portraying the truth to people. Portraying the real truth about your life, about yourself, to the congregation that you are leading. Don't create an impression that you are perfect, or that you don't have challenges, or that you don't face some of those things that they face. And don't begin to tell them, that they have to be holy. They are the ones who are going to backslide, that they are the ones who are going to. But it is not true. You are not right, because you yourself have things that you are struggling with. You yourself have things that you have failed in. You yourself have areas that you have stumbled. You yourself have experiences that, they are now experiencing. But you are not letting them know. You are creating an impression as if you never went through that. It's just like what is coming to my mind right now is like men, women, or even some women, the question of masturbation. Masturbation is one situation that every young man, if you are not married before, you are not married from 16, and you have been a teenager before and a young adult, there is no way you've not, as a man, you have not encountered the question of masturbation. It's just not possible. Even if you didn't masturbate, then probably you had wet dream, or what do you call it? Wet dream. But most people have touched themselves either in the sleep, or while they are sleeping, or in a dream, or while they are alive, either consciously or unconsciously. And, maybe while watching pornography or movies or something, or anything has happened. Many, many things like that have happened to a lot of men, but even women. Because statistics say 97% of all men have masturbated one time or the other in their lives. And 70% of all women. So this means that, people telling you, but in churches, like in my situation, in churches, the impression you have is that anything like this is a sin. And so, many people up to today, they are writing me and they are saying, oh, I want to commit suicide. Why do you want to commit suicide? Oh, because I've been having this situation with masturbation or wet dream. I don't know what is happening. I wake up and wet, or, but they don't tell them the truth that even me, I struggled with it when I was younger, and it's normal. It's normal for you when you are not married, or especially when you are in teenage years, to have experiences like that. And that you just need to repent, move on. Don't make it an habit. Don't make it a lifestyle. Ask for forgiveness and move on. But when we tell people as if, no, you are a Christian, how can that happen to you? These kids begin to think, oh, I'm a Christian. How could that happen to me? How did I allow that to happen? I want to commit suicide now. I want to go and kill myself. I want to go and do this. It's because they have not been told the truth that things like this could happen and will happen. Move on. Put yourself together, forget about it. Don't expose yourself to things that will make you to do those things anymore. But if we don't present ourselves as vulnerable, I even have an article, 20 ways to overcome masturbation. And where I was even telling my story in that article on my blog and in the internet. It's there. So, and I'm thinking, but pastors will say, no, you are a Christian. You are a Christian, that's all. And they create an impression to you as if they never struggled with it. So that you are thinking, I'm the only one in the whole church. I'm the only one in the whole Christendom that is not perfect. Now, I must be a sinner. God will never use me. And it just goes on and on. I don't know what you are getting what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are. The topic you raised is quite interesting. I'm reading some of the comments. Yes, I think with sex or anything to do with that, especially preachers, they don't really they don't address it in the appropriate way.
It's just like recently now, right? We had this big scandal in Nigeria, one apostle, one man of God. And people are just saying, oh, you cannot do that. Why do you say you cannot do that? Any one of us can do that. Yeah. And everybody say, oh, I didn't do it, I did it. What's the problem? Anybody can do anything. Just come around and say, okay, things went wrong. I'm sorry. Apologies. Forgive me. That's all. You don't need to tell everybody that, but, just don't create an impression as if because I'm a man of God, I'm immune. I don't know if you are getting what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think that's the way people in church or these type of people understand holiness. They understand holiness as being perfect and being the image of God. And because God is perfect, you try your best to also display the image of perfection by.
But the truth is that being truthful is more important than being holy.
Yeah. They don't know.
So they present a picture of being holy, but what is needed is for them to be truthful, really.
Because it says also in the Bible that be holy as your Father in heaven is holy.
Yes.
So that's what people use to justify.
But what that means is not that you are going to be holy like God. Nobody is ever going to compare to God. What that means is that strive. The holiness in that sense is talking about perfection. Be perfect. As the Lord in heaven is perfect. It's trying to, you have to strive. Strive. Keep on striving. When you fall, don't just remain there lying down and say, but get up. The righteous will fall 7 times and keep on getting up. As long as you keep on getting up, you keep on striving, that is holiness in this kingdom.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, let's get the other girls and let them tell me what they think about it. Have I asked you about the third point?
Yeah.
You did? Okay, let me ask you about another question. Or maybe if you want to add anything, you could add. But the thing I want to ask you people is the 4 of you now. I need the 4 of you to come. So find a way of showing yourselves. Yeah, that's good. So the question I have for the 4 of you is this. I wanted to do, what I wanted to do today is to expose and talk about the fourth level of truth. I was even planning, really, let me tell you the truth. I was planning to do today the 4th and 5th levels of truth. But see the way it worked out? I never got to do the 4th, and I never even got to even touch the 5th. And but we were able to do the practical analysis and practical application. I think it should be practical application, right? Practical applications of the principles of truth. So I think that's what we should call the thing. Practical applications of the principles of truth. So these principles of truth, the practical application we did now, do you think it is necessary? And I'm not just asking you for this question. I'm asking our viewers who are still with us right now. Is there, because I just felt that there is a place for not just me talking and explaining, but I must also get a feedback on how you are getting it. And that's why I decided to do this practical application so that I will be sure what you people are hearing. Are you really hearing what I'm saying? And that people will also be able to know and be able to assess themselves, how they are doing with what they thought they've heard me say. What will you people say about this?
Well, I definitely think that is necessary. I mean, until you started, I didn't think it was, because with a lot of the issue of the truth, until we started discussing the practical assessment of it, more understanding came to me. On the third one, where you're telling yourself the truth, telling the truth about yourself to somebody else. You gave a lot of examples yesterday, but actually practicalizing it in this way today gave me even more depth of understanding of the actions that I need to take on each of them, rather than just going through these processes and thinking that those processes stops there. The actions that continues with each of these processes, and it's not just an action that maybe would only last you a couple of days. It becomes a lifestyle. So you're showing us to make it a lifestyle rather than a process that maybe we do every now and then when those events happens, when the events happens that where you need to tell yourself the truth, or where you need to tell somebody else the truth, or use the truth about somebody else. It becomes a lifestyle. So this process that we're going through, where we're practicalizing it, makes it something that it has to be a lifestyle for it to work, for the truth to live in me, and for me to demonstrate the truth.
Do you now see a connection between this and a plague of silence that we've been speaking about?
Yes.
And about taking action, being proactive?
Yes, and it's very important that to know for me that it's not just an action where, you know, I do this maybe every Lent or something, you know, where I start doing it becomes something that I do every single day. It's not a matter of a special moment. It's not a special time. It's a daily activity that becomes me, becomes my lifestyle, becomes the way that I operate. So the truth would always live in me. So the truth doesn't become something that it's, yes, you know, when something strikes me, it becomes something that I do regardless, which is me. It's synonymous
Every
with my
second,
life.
yes. I am immersed in the truth.
Truth.
I'm living in the truth. I'm buried in the truth. I am synonymous to the truth.
Yes.
That's where it's supposed to be. Who is the next one to say anything?
I definitely think that us focusing on the truth is the key to even the last series on silence. I don't even think that one can even adequately bring themselves to tell the truth about anything if they're not even being truthful with themselves, if they're not being truthful with the situation around them, if they're not being able to speak out the truth about who they are to other people. I don't even think that the last message can even fully be, you know, executed without someone fully understanding these principles that you're bringing about now. So I think that it does go hand in hand. But I do appreciate the fact that you went with that series first, because it makes people now know why this series is important. So that's what I would say as far as the necessity of this message. I think it's very timely, and I think it's one of the most essential things. Actually, not just even to silence. I think even your series on analytical thinking. I think many of your series require this one, because there's so many different ways people lie to themselves. You know, whether it be, you know, their ability, their authority in a certain matter, their ability to analyze the situation. I mean, so many different ways that we lie to ourselves, which you know because you wrote the book Mountain of Ignorance. But people lie to themselves, and what they don't lie about, they don't even know that they're unaware of. So I think that this is a very...
But really, my original question is about this practical, whatever I call it, this application, practical application that we are doing today, instead of doing what I needed to do, which was to do my 4th and 5th level. What do you think? Was this necessary? Is this helpful?
Yeah, no.
And I want people who are listening to us to also write what they think. Is it helping them anyhow?
I definitely think the practical application was necessary, because even like the 3rd level that you asked us about, I was even struggling to even remember what exactly it was that hit me on that issue until we started to kind of talk it out. I think that there is necessity in repeating what is being said, because especially with these videos, you know, people often think that they can watch it once, or they can hear you say something and feel like they got the full message. But really what they got was a lot of emotions being stirred. So not until we are able to break it down and put examples to it do people actually get to put a picture to what you're saying. You know, really not just go with hype, not just go with, ooh, I've never heard this before, but now say, oh, okay, so that next time that I'm doing this, or that I said that, or that I was interacting this way with my friend, my family member, you know, they've had time now to digest it. I digest the initial, you know, wave of it, and I think now what we've done is we've said, okay, let's call up all these examples from your life, and let's apply what we've learned to what you have experienced in your own life, or what you've seen around you. So definitely very important to practicalize everything that we learn.
Yeah, I also want to say, apart from the why, I now understand also the how, because when we speak about the plague of silence and the fact that we have to speak out, we are all, you know, very emotional about everything that we have heard, and we all want to say something, and we want to correct what is wrong. But I think we should not forget that we should not go out there to point fingers and to say, you know, this is wrong, stop doing this. But the way we should approach this is with the truth. So we should go not to condemn, but to correct the evil in the humble way that we are learning it here right now. So looking at ourselves and examining what the evil is telling us about ourselves, the evil that we're seeing, that we want to talk about, that we want to expose, to use that in order to formulate our messages in a way that they will help the people, that the people will not feel condemned, that they won't feel, you know, attacked or anything, because what we want to do is to bring the light, we want to bring the truth, we want to bring solution and deliver the people. So I think this message really helps me in the application of these principles, help me to really formulate the message to the people outside with the truth and not with my emotions or, you know, only the thing that I've seen and the changes that I want.
Okay, what about what the practical thing that we're doing now instead of continuing to give you the fourth and fifth levels?
Yeah, it helps to internalize what we've learned. It's not just theory, like sitting in a classroom and listening, but it is putting into practice the theory. So it really helps to make this your.
So what about the fact that I'm not continuing? I'm not giving you the fourth and the fifth one.
This is good because, I mean, it will come, you will continue, but it helps us to still, you know, see if we actually have understood what you're talking about. Because you could continue and you could continue and maybe you will understand at the end that maybe most of us have only understood half of what you actually talked about. So this helps you as well to know what level the people are that you're talking to.
Okay.
Yeah, when I call it repetition, or the practical part of it, helped me personally to understand more on this topic, you know, by discussing it. Because before I stood here, like Caroline said that she was struggling to remember what was there. But discussing it now made me understand. What is it? Made me understand that I got something. Sorry.
Can anybody get some water?
And you
for
discussing it further also taught me more on this. And I want it also that when Dr. Sunday asks us those questions, that those on the platform should be asked the same question. They should make themselves to answer the questions too for themselves, so that they will.
How has the practical aspect helped them?
Yeah. They should write how the practical aspect has helped them. Thank you, and what they're doing about it, and use even some examples of their own life to confirm what you are saying. So I believe as you ask us the questions, you should direct the questions to them. You know, people go by command somehow. Like if you don't say share, most people don't share. But that command gives someone like some kind of push to do what he was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So the question should go not to us alone, but to the people on the platform too. And I believe they should also answer, because we are 4 here, there are more than 100 there. So
I also think that this is necessary given the topic itself, because you know the only way that you yourself will know the truth, if we understand this truth that you're teaching, is by practicalizing it this way. Especially with those of us that are here that think that we're listening, we're getting the point, but evidently being able to take actions on it is something that elude me personally, if I can speak for myself. So I think that it is important, if there are any assurances needed, it is important for this particular topic, because otherwise how can this topic be embedded? How would you even know that what you're saying is something that is understood to many people, especially with examples? I've never heard any of these levels of truth before. I haven't read it in any book, or everyone ever told me these levels. And teaching it and teaching us, as you're teaching us many things, I just keep it in my head until I go through the process of practicalizing it in this way. I didn't even know that it's something that has to be my lifestyle, not something that I take out on maybe on a monthly basis, or when something really upsets me, or I'm feeling spiritual one day, that's when I take it out. It's something that I have to continuously use on a daily basis.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Well, I would like to say there are some comments here. Oluremi John says, inspired approach, Pastor. William says, some people do not share and will not contribute because they do not want their church members to know that they are on this platform. But Wilson Ararami is saying, this practical discussion falls under analysis, synthesis, and evaluation, which forms the highest order of learning according to Bloom's taxonomy of the hierarchy of learning. Yep. That is what made me to start doing HMT, by the way. That's what I shared there. Ife or Ife, is it Ife or Ife? Ife Fernandez says, DSA, without the truth, issues will always be compounded, complicated, and destructive because one lie begets many more lies. And that's why we must now, embrace the culture of speaking out. And, because it is the truth. It is the truth that lives in you that prompts you to not want to be quiet. And it is that truth that you are in that would never allow, you don't want darkness to overwhelm you. If you are living in the truth, darkness, you don't want darkness. You want to, dissipate darkness rather. You want to destroy darkness. And that's why you want to spread the truth rather than allowing darkness to overwhelm you. That's why we are talking about the culture of silence, and it's the culture of death and all that. So that's why we approach darkness and we speak out. Olusegun Afolabi said, tonight's assessment is very good. It gives me more insight to the treated topic. It gives more insight to the treated topic. Jide says, if this is very important because DSA operates in the prophetic or strong meat, which means that it will take some measure of explanation to break down the revelation being freely shared here. Volker, we have been taught to hide our sins. And that's what the church has been doing, right? And pretend to be holy. We are like actors. We live the role of others and wear masks to cover up our dirty areas. And that's because everybody is like living in deception, in not living in darkness. See, because the truth has not been explained to the people. The truth has not been, revealed. And the truth has not been understood. And the power and force of the truth is not known to people. And so people are afraid of the truth rather than embracing the truth to set them free. And as Stacia said, if we had known this truth, it would have saved a lot of guilt, tripping, and being more free to live in the truth. Inadvertently, we have been taught to not live in the truth. Yeah. So now we all have to begin to become ambassadors of the truth. And the movement against deception is what this is all about. Jide says, sir, this method is excellent because it helps to break down the things you have been saying. Monica, thanks so much, DSA, for this teaching. Yes, some pastors always want you to believe they are very holy and they cannot sin. Anastasia says the church is very unforgiving in this area. And that is another reason why people don't embrace the truth. Because the people who condemn people, they don't love the truth themselves. They themselves have not been through the first level of truth. Maya says, God bless you, Pastor. This is the message the whole world needs. Adaora, you said it's not Adaora, Adora. Adora says, wow, Dr. Sunday, you have answers to every question. Amazing, sir. Monica, but some people's dressing always portray. Look at that about that. Amarashi Jerry, this has been my issues with the pastors portraying perfection, which is a myth. Volka, when you are not projecting who you truly are, your secret lifestyle, that means you are living in hypocrisy. That's right. Lara Shomoy, the three components of God are truth, love, and light. I think there is a lot to still be discussed about that. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I hope tomorrow we'll be able to really deal with the fourth and fifth, or at least the fourth level of truth. And I hope you've been blessed, everybody. And look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Kingdom Fruit earlier, and then we'll come back to have this one. God bless you guys. Blessings. Bye.